Hello everyone, this is Srini here and welcome back to my channel. So this is my channel guys and you can just go ahead and subscribe to it and just hit the bell to get notifications. So you'll be getting a lot of free videos on Java, Selenium, API automation, robotics process automation, and even I done a playlist on different interview questions for Java and Selenium as well. So that will be very useful for you all. So today we are going to learn a topic on Maven. So you might have already heard about this term a lot in these days. So Maven is such a popular tool going on around that we need to know what is Maven, how to install it, and we need to use it for our advantage. So let's go ahead and get started. So before I go deep into our today's agenda, I'll just like to tell you what you're going to learn from this particular tutorial session. You will be able to understand what is Maven, right? What is it all about, how it is useful for us, what are its advantages, and also we'll be able to see what are the different life cycle phases of a Maven. So if you are not even heard about these terminologies and these concepts, right? So this particular video will be very useful for you all to understand the life cycle, the build life cycle of a Maven, as well as how Maven is useful for a developer or be it a Selenium automation tester. Maven can be used for our advantage, right? So how do we use it? What is the role of pom.xml file? So that we're going to see in this particular tutorial session. And we'll also see how to download and configure the system from our operating system perspective so that we can successfully install Maven and start using it. So let's get started, guys. So what is Maven, right? So it's basically like an automation and a build management tool, right? So it's basically written in Java language, and it can be basically used for building the projects of different types of languages. It need not be only in Java. It could be Ruby or other languages as well. So it's basically like a build management tool, and it works on a concept of project object model. It's not a page object model here. It's called as project object model. So we are going to see in depth what is it all about, right? So Maven basically it is so useful that it's basically like has a plugin in Eclipse as well. So we can do our programming in Eclipse. So with the help of Maven, we will be able to not only structure a project in such a proper fashion, we will be also able to build it, deploy it, right? And then once we have deployed it, either locally, we can even just deploy the same file, whatever file format we want to deploy it, right? It could be like a jar file or a war file, etc. So we can basically use it to create such a jar or a war file and let it get deployed onto the server, right? Whether it be can be locally or it can be at the remote server side. So these are the different ways or useful part which Maven provides for a framework. So let's get understanding of what is the life cycle of Maven. So Maven, as we are calling it like a build management tool. So basically these are nothing but the build life cycles of Maven. So there are three default built-in build life cycles of Maven, right? And they are default, clean, and site. So these are the three default built-in build life cycles, right? So default talks about or handles the project deployment. Clean would be taking care of doing the project cleaning part, and site will take care of doing the project site documentation creation, right? So there is a activity of project site documentation, so that will be taken care by the site phase. So these are the three phases which even if someone asks you in the interview, you have to mention that there are three built-in build life cycles of Maven. Those are default, clean, and site, and mention the role of each and every phase. And we are going to look at the default phase in detail because this is the most important thing to understand from Maven perspective. What exactly does it do? And this is what even the interview would be interested to know from a candidate, right? Whether they are having a good knowledge about the default lifecycle phases. So let's get started, right? So as we talked about, default handles the project deployment. So the first phase is about validating. So it validates whether our project is valid and whether we can go ahead, right? So that is the activity being taken care in the validate phase. So I'll be showing all of these phases one by one when we are coming to the command prompt. Once we have successfully installed Maven, I will be showing you all how we can do each and of these phases through command prompt, right? Second particular phase is compile. So what it would do is that it would compile the project source code, right? And it will just give us an indication whether the build was successful or not, whether the compilation was successful or not. That indication will be given by the compile phase. So as we do with any normal programming language, right? Once we compile our code, we are ready to go ahead and get started. So similarly, once the code is compiled and the build is successful without any errors, we can successfully go ahead and test it, right? We can test it whether it works fine or does it give any error when it is getting run. So that is the phase called test. We are going to run our particular source code since we've already compiled it. The next phase is called package. So as the name suggests, we are going to package it. So we are going to package it in such a kind of a format which will be allowing us to distribute it over to other projects. So that is going to be in the form of like war file or jar file. So that is what package is doing it, right? Once we have got that package or like jar file or a war file, we can just allow it to run in a kind of a environment which is supporting some kind of a integration test, right? So we'll be having some kind of a unit testing environment where we'll be running some integration test on this war or jar file and just ensure that it is successfully running without any issues, right? Then we'll be having some test carried out. We are going to have a verify phase, which is going to have some test carried out to ensure that the positive, the negative, and all the other validations are successfully getting executed without any issues. So once these all steps are done, we are pretty sure that we have done our part. We have, created the project. We have just created the source code. We have compiled it. We have executed it. We have just put it into a war file or a jar file. We have done it in a kind of an integration test environment as well. And not only that, we have also done some successful checks, right, to carry out the positive or the negative validations through the verify phase, right? So now we are ready to deploy it locally. So that is the nothing but done by install. So install would basically take care of locally deploying it so that my other projects which are there, right, whichever would need certain functionality of this particular jar or war file would be able to use it since I've already tested out the previous phases, right? So I am ready to go ahead and install it locally, and that will be then useful for the other projects in the workspace or the other workspace, right? And the last step is deploy. So as the name suggests, deploying it on a server, right? So we are going to deploy this war file onto a remote server so that it is being used by other developers and other projects as well across the organization, right? So these are the different phases which are going to be used in the default lifecycle. Now there are going to be other phases as well, but these are the most commonly used default lifecycle phases which we can see on a Maven project lifecycle. And when these phases are run in a sequential manner followed by the other phases, it would complete your default lifecycle. So once your project deployment part is done, which is a part of default lifecycle, you would be just trying to check if there is any kind of a sync issues or some kind of a repository which is not up to the mark. You're going to clean it to ensure that we don't have any kind of issues as such when we try to go ahead and run the project. And site is basically like ensuring that we are doing the project site documentation part. So I hope this overall life cycle is clear of Maven project. So let's go ahead for the next topic. How do we use Maven, right? So as we discussed, Maven is a build management tool. So we would be able to use the Maven by creating a project in Eclipse, and there is a configuration file which is called as pom.xml, right? So this configuration file would allow us to trigger and execute the entire Maven project. So that's the triggering point, like how we have a main method in Java. Similarly, to start with your Maven, you have to have a configuration file called as pom.xml. Now this pom.xml we are going to look at in detail in our next video tutorial, but just I'll give you a glimpse of what we are talking about, right? So this pom.xml is basically going to be a structure just letting the Maven particular project know what it has to do. So it will have a Maven compiler, right? So that will basically have which particular version of compiler you're going to use of your Java, right? So we are going to use 1.8 for this particular tutorial session. So we'll mention the version of JDK as 1.8, and there will be another plugin called Maven Surefire plugin, right? So that will ensure that we carry out or we configure and execute the test cases, whatever we have. So we are going to have this configuration and execution done through, let's say, testng.xml, right? So we would have a path of which particular testng.xml file we are going to trigger. So indirectly from a Maven project, we are going to trigger our testng project. that is a testng.xml file. And from testng.xml file, we are going to carry out the complete execution of our test cases, right? So testng.xml file, guys, is basically like a test suite, which will be basically a collection of all your test methods. So if you haven't gone over my previous videos on testng, I would strongly recommend go ahead and look at that, and then you will be able to get an idea about testng, right? So let's get on to the next slide. So here we're going to talk about three key topics. First one is what are the advantages of using Maven. Second topic we're going to look at is how do we download and install Maven and also set the path in our operating system. And the last thing, we are going to see how to create a Maven project. So let's get started. What are the advantages of using Maven? So with Maven, you will be able to have a systematic project structure detailing out what each and every package of the project is going to do. So it will be very clear understanding when you look at when I create the first Maven project, you will be having a clear understanding of why Maven is used to define a project structure. It is also helpful to build our entire project and also manage out all the test cases, right, systematically. The second advantage is that whatever dependencies are there, right, it will all be configured through pom.xml file. And this will basically allow us to build the complete project and run the framework without worrying about anything. Because normally when you create your own project, right, you might be required to have the supporting jars or other particular files added to your build path. So that's a kind of sometimes a cumbersome task to find out the required jars, find it from the internet, then download it, then add it to your build path. In case you miss out any jar file, even a single jar file, then you might run into some issues when you're running your project, right? So then we'll be kind of confused as to why and what has gone wrong in our project. So those kind of all confusion and issues could be resolved by simply mentioning what is your dependency of the project. What are the different types of units or components you need in your framework, right? Do you need Java or do you need TestNG? Do you need JUnit? So all those dependencies you can just mention in this pom.xml file, and it will on its own take care of downloading it from the remote repository or the internet and then just configure to your project automatically. You don't have to worry about even adding it to your build path. It will take care on its own. That is how powerful pom.xml is. And that's why we have a dedicated session on pom.xml on separate next tutorial session, right? What's the next advantage? So using Maven, any particular project could be built successfully and we could get the desired output if we want exported in the form of a jar file or a war file or some useful representation called as metadata. So that we are going to look at when we start creating Maven project. And Maven can also download whatever dependencies you have mentioned through pom.xml, right, automatically from the internet, and it will just configure to your project. So you don't have to worry about downloading the individual jar, which I've already talked about in the point 2. So now let's get started. Let's download and install Maven. So I'll just go to Google and I have already just mentioned the search term here, downloading and installing Maven. So when you click on this particular first link, the official website, you will be getting this kind of a page open. So this is the official website of Maven. It is through Apache. Apache is the organization which has created this particular product. So for downloading Maven, it will depend upon what particular operating system you're going to use. So if you're going to use Windows, you can just follow this particular instructions. Just come down and you will have to download this binary zip file. Just download this binary zip file and you will be able to download the Maven, right? Don't go for the source zip file, guys, because source is basically used only in case you want to create your enhanced version of Maven. So I would strongly ask you all to just go ahead and download the binary zip file. Now there are some certain prerequisites which you need to understand before you start using Maven. So that is already given by the Apache, right? So they have mentioned that you need to have JDK. So we should surely have Java installed in a machine. And I'm using 1.8 version, so you can use 1.7 or above to have Maven supported on your system. So memory disk and operating system, there is no requirement as such to worry about. So you can use any OS for that matter and just get started with Maven. So let's click on download and it will start downloading your Maven file. So this is not giving us the exact link. So let's just see if there's any alternative links for Maven. So you need to click on this particular link, the binary zip archive, right? This particular left right side link, just click on it and it will start downloading. So here, if you see, it is just started to download, but I already have it. So once you have downloaded that, you just have to install it. So I'll just show you how to install it. So once it is installed successfully, you will be able to see Maven project created, and I'll show you the path where exactly it will be saved. So for the sake of demonstration, let me just install it and show it to you all. So let it get downloaded. It's just a small file. Yeah, so it's almost done. So let's just go ahead and install Maven. So once it's downloaded, you can just go ahead and extract it. So it will be a zip file saying Apache Maven 3.6.1 bin. So just you go ahead and extract all. I'm extracting it. Yeah. So once it is downloaded and you have extracted it, so you can see there are two files here, bin and lib. So these two files are of prime significance. Whenever you want to interact with Maven, you need to ensure that these two paths for bin and lib are given successfully on your operating system. So how do we set the environment variables we need to know? So I'll just explain you all how do we install, or basically how do we make the system understand that Maven is successfully configured in our system, right? So you need to go to this PC and go to properties, right? So go to properties and go to advanced system settings, go to environment variables. And here you need to define mainly two variables, right? So first one, you need to ensure that you are having Java home. So this should surely be there in your system. If not, then I'll show you what to do. Create a Java underscore home system variable and have the complete path given till JDK, whatever version you're having, have the complete path provided. Click on OK. Once that is done, just create one more variable called Maven underscore home. And wherever your Maven is installed, right, ensure that you're giving the complete path. So for me, it's already available, and this is the version 3.5.0, and it's there in this particular location. So I've given that as my home location for Maven home, right? Now, what's the next step? The next step is to define a variable called as path, because we need to give a complete idea about where exactly is the bin folder for Maven and where exactly is the lib folder, right? So we are going to give the bin folder location in path. So click on edit variable. So for you, you might have to create a new path variable if it is not already existing. And here you have to give a complete path of your bin folder. If you see, I have already got this path added. If I just go to the folder, I can just show to you what exactly is the path here, right? So this is the path. So this is the path where my Maven is already downloaded. So you just have to basically click on this bin folder and copy this entire path and mention it on your environment variable for the class system environment variable, right? So this is going to be your path variable till bin folder. Similarly for JDK, you have to give the folder location till bin folder, right? So once this is also done, then the next part to be done is creating a class path variable. So you have to create a variable called as class path and give two paths here. One is going to be the JDK lib path, and the other one is going to be your Apache Maven library path. So ensure that always the class path should have the location till lib folder, that is the libraries folder, right? So once all of these steps are done, you can just look at my video on a slow pace and understand what I've exactly done. So once these steps are done, you are ready to go and start using Maven in your project. So let's get started. So just go to command prompt and let's just type a command to successfully check if Java and Maven both are available in our system. So first we will check Java. See, it has given the output as 1.8 version is already existing on 64-bit OS. The next one is to check if Maven is successfully configured in our system. So the command for the same is mvn-version. So mvn stands for Maven, And this MVN keyword we're going to use a lot in when we are trying to interact with command prompt. We are going to use this Maven command a lot, this MVN keyword a lot. So just remember this keyword. Just press enter and you will be able to see that which version of MVN is installed in the machine. You can see here it's 3.5.0, which I had shown in my path. And this is the home directory location for Maven, and it is also detecting Java is present, and which is the Java home folder location. So as we discussed, for Maven, Java should be there in your system, right? And it doesn't worry about the operating system what you're using. So let's come back to a slide. So now we have successfully seen how to download and configure Maven in our operating system. And also we have seen how to set up the path and class path, right? So now we're going to look at the next topic. How do we create our first Maven project, right? So let's go to Eclipse. So we are going to use Eclipse as the integrated development environment for using or creating Maven project. So this is how a Maven project looks like. So just to give you an example, this is how it looks like. And this is the structure of the project which I was talking about in my slide deck. Helps to define the project structure, right? So this is the project structure. It's so organized. It's having the different folders on SRC main Java. This talks about the different main files we are going to have in a project, right? For Java. The main resources is going to have like which resources you're going to use in Java. For example, it could be a Chrome driver.exe, or I might be using some testng.xml file, etc. So those all what resources I'm going to use, that I'm going to store in my SRC main. Then SRC test Java would be like basically the test cases, whatever we are going to write in Java for whatever framework we're using, those could be put as a part of this package. Then SRC test resources, if we are having any test cases to be executed like a test data file, that we could have as a part of this folder location, Excel file, right? And these Maven dependencies, what you see here, are automatically downloaded by Maven on its own. See, it is downloaded on its own and stored at some particular path in .m2 folder. So we are going to see all of this in detail in our next lecture, but I just wanted to show you the project structure. And since in this particular project we are using testng as well, so you could see testng libraries also got added. And this is the pom.xml file which we were talking about, right? So let's just see it from scratch. So firstly, if you don't have Maven, you will have to install it in your Eclipse. So for that, you have to go to help and you have to do install new software. Just search for Maven. Right. So basically, we have to give a complete path here. We are not able to get what is Maven. If you just type Maven enter, it's not able to give us any value. So we have to mention the location or the exact URL from which we are going to download Maven. So what we would do is we'll click on add and we will give it a name like Maven. And we have to get the path of where this resource is currently installed. So this is currently available at this particular path. So we are going to give this path and click on OK. Now ensure that you are having these options checked. These all the three, excluding this one and this fourth one, should be checked. Fourth one is optional actually, but this one is important because it will contact all the update sites in case it is not able to get the exact software. It will try to find out from various sources and it will be able to install it. Right? And here is the option for Maven integration for Eclipse. So just you can check this particular checkbox and click on next. Right? So let this get completed on its own, and then it will ask for a confirmation that it will install Maven. Do you want to trust the authenticity of the software? So just click on OK, and then Maven will be installed. Right. So I'm not doing that because it's already available in my machine. So once it is installed and you have Maven in your system, you can just directly check it out by clicking on File, New, and go to Project. And here you will be seeing there is a folder now available for as another option, like how we have Java, you'll have another option like Maven, and you can create a new Maven project, right? So I'll just create a new Maven project and show it to you all, and we will see in detail in our next lecture. So this is how you're going to get the window. So just select the first option, create a simple project, and click on next. And you have to give some two values here, group ID and artifact ID. I'll just give a name like form.org.test, right? And here the same as artifact ID, and click on finish. So it's going to create a new project, Maven project, yeah, pom.org.test, and it will give you a small abbreviation on the top that it's a Maven project and also using Java. So it's getting created. You can see on the right hand side bottom we have this progress being shown. 71% is done. 74. So let's get it completed and then we can just continue with our session. Yeah. So it's done. So you can see there is a two abbreviations shown on the top of the project, M and J. J stands for Java and M stands for Maven. And you can see this kind of a hierarchy being shown. The similar one which I had shown you in this particular project structure. But we are going to see the detailing part in a next video. But let me just show you how the pom.xml looks like in this one. So you would be seeing this kind of options available, overview, dependencies, etc. You just have to go to this pom.xml part. And you can see they have given a default version of how the pom.xml looks like. It is without any errors, and it is having the default group ID, artifact ID, and version, which we had got while we had created the Maven project, right? So we are going to look at how we can make this pom.xml complete. We will create one sample project and we will create one testng.xml file as well and run it through this pom.xml file in our next lecture. So stay tuned for the next one, and I hope this tutorial session was very helpful for you all. Do share with your friends and do subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.